This is the general idea people get from Darwinism. Man did not evolve from apes. There is zero evidence of that idea, and yet it persists. Institutions, universities, and even governments actively tout, teach, and preach this idea. That in itself is proof that people do not think about what they believe. Anybody who is involved in the field of science should demand proof of such a claim before repeating it. Paleontologists themselves freely admit there is no link between apes and humans. Charles Darwin himself did not say that man evolved from apes, but rather that man evolved in a similar way as some apes, using comparative anatomical, embryological, and behavioral observations to support his ideas. He then bought into the ideas of Charles Lyell that the Earth was much older than previously thought. Only an ancient Earth could support his evolution theory. From this seed of his published works, a narrative has grown that everything evolved from a single-celled amoeba in a primordial soup. You see, errors grow just like anything else. Darwinism is the product of human imagination. For his theory on the origin of species to work, it requires millions of years and mathematically impossible situations to occur. Beyond that, his defective reasoning is one of observing and then imagining what must have taken place. Let's use the rainbow as an allegory. It is akin to observing a rainbow and stating that it starts as blue in the lower level and evolves to green, yellow, orange, and finally red in the uppermost level. Therefore, the color of the light is directly related to the relative distance from the ground. This is the kind of reasoning you get from Darwin, and his conclusions are equally erroneous because they are based on imagination. I will not waste more time here on Darwinism, other than to say that trying to support it with microbiology, embryology, comparative anatomy, and the fossil record is laughable. The fossil record itself disproves Darwin. The fossil record clearly shows that life suddenly exploded on planet Earth. There is no fossil record of life evolving into millions of different life forms, from simpler forms of life, and ultimately from a single form of life in some primordial soup. Mankind was created just as all the different animals were created, and all the different sea life was created, and all the different plant life was created. The fossil record supports this, microbiology supports this, embryology supports this, comparative anatomy supports this, and so does the objective human mind. Trying to disprove creation is illogical. I have spent time in the previous articles presenting evidence and arguing the age of the universe and everything in it as being approximately 6,000 years old. All history in this physical universe we live in is contained in that duration. The variation in the speed of light explains all the miscalculations in time by our sciences and mathematics. With that being said, I want to move on to the creation of man. The world does not lack oral traditions and some ancient written descriptions of the creation of mankind. It is not possible that they are all correct. It is also necessary to consider that none are correct, and we do not know, nor have we ever known the answer to that question. With that in mind, let's see if there is any evidence of the correct answer. A godless beginning is at best inexplicable by real science using the real information we have at this time. I have spent all my time in the previous posts showing the errors that come from a godless science. I do not have any problem with science or the scientific method when used within a framework of God-given truth. But when God is excluded because of human bias, error is nearly inevitable. I will not cover that ground again in this post. A godless beginning can only be claimed by those who refuse to accept the proof I have put forward. Those claims are not valid. As we look back in time through the lens of archaeology towards the beginning of man on this earth, we see man worshiping many gods. These gods rose and fell along with the rise and fall of the cultures that worshiped them, proving they were not gods at all. Religion still active today with significant followers, which have to this point stood the test of time, are Hinduism, 15th century BCE, Judaism, 9th century BCE, Buddhism, 6th century BCE, Christianity, 1st century CE, and Islam, 7th century CE. These religions have a combined following of about 75% of the world's population. Rather than examining each of them, or any other you want to add to the list, and debating their merits, I think there's a better way to get to the truth of their gods being the gods or not. Who is God, what is his name, and what is his son's name? If God created another sentient being in his own image, would not that be his son? Many religions lay claim to knowing the real God and his name, but which can offer proof? Which of the pantheon of gods can declare a thing before it happens and then bring it to pass? Declaring the end from the beginning is not unusual in various religions. Many religions have an apocalyptic genre included in their writings or oral history. Who can forget the recent hysteria of the Mayan calendar, supposedly predicting the end of the world in 2012 as an example? It is impossible to discredit these predictions until the time of the predicted event has passed, making them of little present value in establishing veracity. However, the Hebrew writings set themselves apart from all the rest, being replete with prophecies and subsequent fulfillments, with years, decades, and most often hundreds of years separating the prophecy and the fulfillment. No other writings come close to the volume of prophetic scriptures that are in the Old Testament of the Bible. There are more than 1,800 prophecies and fulfillments in the Old Testament. No other God can do that. No other religion has a God who can declare a thing and then bring it to pass. With a little research of your own, you can easily find a list of those prophecies and fulfillment. But here is one prophecy that you will see fulfilled with your own eyes. It is in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 59, verse 19. So shall they fear the name of Yahuwah from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of Yahuwah shall lift up a standard against him. Just keep that in mind and make a mental note of it. We will talk much more about this prophecy in future posts. This is real evidence. This is the kind of evidence that is out there in the public domain and cannot be hidden. Paleontological evidence that supports the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Bible is hidden and often destroyed by godless institutions in an effort to discredit the written history, because it directly contradicts the narrative of evolution and science based on a 14 billion-year-old universe. The God of the Bible has a name, Yahuwah, and his Son has a name, Yahusha, also known as Jesus, and yet he shall have many sons, whose number shall be as the stars in heaven, or as the sand of the sea in number. I will write extensively on this in a future post, but for now I want to write about the first man, Adam, whom God made a living soul. Most people know something of the story of creation from the Bible. If you have not read it in a while, pick up a Bible and read it. It will take you no more than 10 minutes tops. It is in Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3, the first 3 chapters in the Bible. Please note that God created everything in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. The 6 days of creation are the key to the fundamental understanding of physics and mathematics. He built everything in this universe using the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will write more about this in my next post titled 666 and Base 60 Math. Then on the 7th day, he rested. It is important to understand that man was created on the 6th day. Man was God's final work of creation. God formed man from the dust of the earth and breathed the breath of life in him, and man became a living soul. God called the man Adam. God had established a garden in Eden and placed the man he created in the garden. God told Adam to take care of the garden, and he could eat the fruit of it with one exception. God brought all of the animals he had created to Adam and Adam named them. God made a woman to be a companion for Adam from a rib in Adam's side. God walked and talked with Adam and Eve in the garden. Let's take a look at this. Adam was created as an adult male, Eve as an adult female. Both had fully developed language vocabularies they never had to learn. Adam could create new words as needed and had the skills to cultivate a garden. They could walk and talk with God in the Garden of Eden and carry on an intelligent conversation with Him. These two people never had a childhood. They were created with inherent intelligence. Apparently, when they sinned, they also knew how to sew. Does this sound like the early humans that the Smithsonian tells you could barely survive hunting and gathering and living in caves? Not only did they not hunt, but they also did not eat meat. I will argue that they had no need to discover fire or invent the wheel. I believe they knew all that from the moment they were created. Adam and Eve were created with fully developed intelligent minds, and who knows how much knowledge. God demonstrated that He knew they had enough knowledge and intelligence not to fall for the serpent's deception. Otherwise, He would be unjust in holding them responsible for their actions. No, mankind did not evolve from lower animal life, and neither was He created tabula rasa. God created Adam and Eve as fully developed adults with minds filled with knowledge and understanding. Unlike you and I, they never had a childhood and were fully aware and responsible for their actions. The God of the Bible is the only God who can declare a thing and then bring it to pass. No other God and no other religion can do that. The God of the Bible declared to Moses that He created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. The God of the Bible declared to Moses that He created Adam on the 6th day, not as a child, but as a fully grown, intelligent human being with knowledge and understanding of what God had created. We know from the Bible that the 6 days of creation took place approximately 6,000 years ago.